Great. The next presenter that we're going to be bringing up here is not just a credible ally of Dave and myself, but he's also a very dear friend. We've spent probably the last 9 years working together, really assembling the best team of people that we recommend and we work with on an ongoing basis. And the next gentleman I'm going to be bringing up, his name is George Lamoureux. Does anybody hear George Lamoureux in the last event? Or any interviews in the best day ever? Master herbalist George Lamoureux is the founder of Jing Herbs. George has been a tonic and clinical herbalist for over 15 years. He holds a master's degree in traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture from the prestigious Yosan University and holds certification from the National Certification Committee for Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine. Basically, the guy knows his stuff. And Dave, if you want us to say a couple words about the importance, because it's not just enough to know what herbs to take. It's so crucial you know what herbs to take, but also where you're getting them from.
It's super important. We want to make sure we're getting them from people who check and do their homework, right? One of the things about herbs coming from China is we got to have somebody checking the guy who checks the guy who checks the guy. Yeah. That's what George does for us.
Continuously, because what may be a good product one year, they realize they start making some money from it, and they sell all this cheaper stuff, and nobody really knows the difference if they're not paying attention. So we need people like George Lamoureux, who are he's like a watchdog to find the best of the best. And I don't know if you've been to his booth way in the back. He has all raw herbs as well. So there's two ways to take herbs, in the bottle, also in the raw form. And in the raw form, you actually get a relationship with the herbs. And Dave's made me hundreds and hundreds of gallons of teas over the course of our relationship together as business partners. And it sounded kind of weird, I thought. And I tell you, you really don't know an herb until you see it, touch it, feel it, smell it, taste it, and put it into hot water or extract it somehow with alcohol, water. And so he has a whole, library of, not a library, but a whole stock of raw herbs you can check back there that are in their bulk form, meaning you can get them a lot cheaper. So without further ado, George Lamoureux, you're in the house.
All right, let's give it up for George Lamoureux.
Ladies and gentlemen, George Lamoureux! Please stand. Woo! Thank you, George.
Right on, thank you.
Now, is there a grounding pad here? No, it's not. Yes, right here. You can take your shoes off.
Yeah. Do you mind if I take my shoes off while I'm up
No,
here?
and remember, if you have a grounding pad and you have socks on, the moisture from your feet connects still with the pad and you're grounded. Right now, I'm grounded. If I had the grounding tester, it would say I'm grounded. I've done it 100 times before. Hey, anybody sitting in a chair with the grounding technology and is not grounded right now? Who? Anybody? Any empty chairs? I noticed there were a few still over there. If you don't have grounding technology right now, raise your hand and someone will get you a patch. Patch. Box of the patch. Thank you very much. Thanks, George.
Hi, how are you? Good. Before we start, I just want everyone to stand up for a few seconds. We're going to do a little bounce. I mean, you've been sitting down, need a little energy flow going on. So just bend the knees a little bit, arms down, just bounce a little bit. Feel better? Okay, go ahead. Okay, we're going to talk about a subject today that's certainly dear to my heart. Is anyone in the room, has anyone ever experienced stress? Can I have a show of hands? A lot of hands didn't go up. That's really good. This is a rare group of people here. Okay. You did? Okay. So, this is going to be about the anatomy of stress. And one of the reasons why I called it this is because I really want to give you a good idea of what stress is actually doing in the body specifically and what effect it has on your health. How many people think that this statement is true? 80 to 90% of all diseases can be traced back to stress. How many people think that's true? Okay, I don't have all of you, but maybe by the end of this we will. Okay, here's a definition of stress. When you wake up screaming and you realize you haven't fallen asleep yet. That's a good definition. It sort of gives you the feeling of what stress is, but it doesn't really work as a working definition of stress. So let's use this one. An automatic physical response to anything that requires you to adjust to change. Now, this is something that is actually the result of millions and millions of years of selection. When we existed in that primordial soup that we all came out of, okay? Single cells can actually change and morph if they experience stress. In petri dishes, they have shown, you put a cell in a petri dish and you put a nutrient in that dish, the cells will gravitate toward it. But if you put some kind of a environmental toxin, the cells will actually get away from that. So that avoidance response started millions and millions of years ago. And those survival skills are actually seated in what they call the reptilian brain, or the brain stem that's below the large cerebral space. Okay? And that's where it resides. And we talk about, we are very complicated systems, but at the same time, we are very, very simple systems. A human being usually goes between two functions. Either you're in a growth function or you're in a protective function. And those two conditions can actually change the morphology of the cells in your body, depending on what you're experiencing. Now, as far as stress goes, the dangers today that we have are very often more psychological than they are physical. I mean, there was a time when you actually had someone meeting up with a bear in the woods, and that kind of a situation where you had to go into that fight or flight mode to survive, okay? But instead of those kind of things happening in today's society, what we have are not the bears in the woods anymore. We have the bears in the stock market, okay? Or those kind of things. The more adaptable we are, all right, the more successful you'll be. Now, stress does have its positive effects, okay? It does help you grow. It does help you transform. You can excel in your chosen field. Stress also spurs creativity and ultimately will give you a sense of pride and accomplishment. But we're not talking about this kind of stress anymore. We're talking about stress that doesn't turn off, stress that's clicked on 24 hours a day. And that's when it doesn't become beneficial for you. That's when it really becomes a problem for you. And I can say that anyone who is seeking perfection, as David was talking about, anyone who is seeking perfect health cannot possibly attain that if they allow stress in their lives, or if they don't at least control the amount of stress in their lives. Okay, so now let's go through some of the top 10 causes. Number one, health problems. The cancer, diabetes, chronic conditions, worrying about health. And this is very interesting because for the group of people who are in this room, okay, sometimes you can actually get to a point where you start worrying about the fact that you're not doing the right things to stay healthy. And then the more that you worry about it, the more you're actually going toward that side when you're not going to be healthy. And as a matter of fact, I think they've actually come up with a new syndrome where it's people who are becoming obsessed about their health. Now, it's good to be obsessed in a good way, but it's not good to be obsessed in a literal way. And that's something we have to avoid. Okay, number 2, emotional problems, guilt, grief, low self-esteem, anger, and depression. And actually, anger, depression can very often come from a feeling of low self-esteem, where people feel that they are not, they're not. They just don't allow themselves to come forward and be the people that they are, which leads to anger about themselves and then eventually can lead to stress. Okay, relationships problems, especially when you don't have anyone to vent to, especially when you don't have communication with the person that you're in the relationship with. So this is a big cause of stress in people's lives. Okay. Automatic negative thoughts. This is something that Dr. Daniel Amen actually came up with. And this happens a lot. For instance, this morning, when I was shaving, I have an electric razor, and I forgot to charge it. So I had basically shaved half of my face, and it died. So I you do start to go into that panic mode, and I thought, oh, this is going to be great. I can either show them the clean side or the grungy side, But luckily, I did have the adapter, so I was able to finish. But things like that happen all the time. Another thing, I was driving on the 55 when I was on my way here, and all of a sudden, this thought came into my mind, oh my God, what if my car breaks down and I can't get there? My car has never broken down. I didn't have that, but there it was. Automatic negative thought, and it happens all the time. What you have to do is you ask these questions like immediately, is this true? Does this thought have any basis in reality right now? And then you can sort of cut that stress cascade really quickly. Extreme lifestyle changes, marriage, divorce, pregnancy, leaving home, switching jobs, all of these things obviously can be very stressful. Job stresses, this is a big one. How many people in here love their jobs, absolutely love their jobs? Okay. How many people hate to walk in the morning? Anybody? Yeah, we have a few. Okay. That can really lead to a lot of problems. Deadlines, fear of job loss, especially in this economy, bosses that you really don't have any control over, and coworkers. Okay. Financial stresses, again, this is sort of like a timely topic. Bills, college, kids, mortgage, living beyond your means. Okay. Multitasking. This is a really important one. This is a really interesting one. And we're going to do a little exercise right now. And what I want you to do, and the people who are listening at home, get a piece of paper and a pen ready. This next slide that's going to go up is going to have one sentence, okay? And then it's going to have numbers from 1 to 27 underneath, okay? And let's see, who is really good at multitasking here? Moms definitely are. Moms definitely are, but Right here? Okay. I'm going to use you as the benchmark for the whole group. Okay? Did you ready? Okay. Good? Okay. So we're gonna see, does anyone have a sweep second hand on a watch? Does anyone have a watch that has, you do right here? Okay. So when I say go, I want you to time this. All right? So is everybody ready? So you're going to write the sentence first as it appears, and then the numbers 1 through 27. Okay? There you go. Multitasking is worse than a lie. 1 through 27. Go. You done? Okay, time?
27 seconds.
27 seconds. Okay, is everyone mostly finished? Okay, so it's 27 seconds. Now here's what I want you to do now. Instead of doing it that way, I want you to do the M and then 1, the U and then 2, the L and then 3. And do that whole sequence again. Wait until I say start. Okay? Start now. But you have to do it in the same amount of time as you did before. I don't want to cause any stress here. Is this an easy one?
That was easier.
Finished? Good? Okay, time?
47 seconds.
47 seconds. Okay. So you are twice as inefficient when you try to multitask. What do when you multitask? You lose two things. Okay? You lose focus and you lose time. Okay. So, if you're looking for a job and you see an advertisement that says high pressure, must be able to multitask, okay? What that means is that company really needs 3 people and they only have enough money to hire 1. Okay, so do not take that job. All right. So multitasking is a good way not to get things done. Now, I know moms have to do a lot of things at one time, and that's a little bit different. But we're talking about sort of in a work sort of thing where you're trying to get, you have deadlines, you're trying to get things done. It's better to hyper-focus on something and get it done, and then go to the next thing. It will really relieve the stress a lot. Okay. Number 9, discrimination, and that's any kind of discrimination, gender orientation, sex, age, whatever it is. It causes a lot of stress. It not only causes stress for the people that are the recipients of this discrimination, but it also causes stress for the people who are perpetrating it, because what's happening is they fear that the people that they are trying to keep down will one day get the upper hand. So it causes stress on both sides. It has no place in our society or our world. Okay, and number 10, stress. Reality. The leading cause of stress for those in touch with it. Okay? Sometimes it's better not to be in touch with reality. It's a lot less stressful. Okay, let's go back. Okay. This is Bruce Lipton from his book, The Biology of Belief. I don't know how many people have read that book. It's absolutely fascinating. The Biology of Belief, Bruce Lipton. Humans unavoidably restrict their growth behavior when they shift into a protective mode. And we're going to get into this, how this really is specific in a stressful situation. Okay. The nervous system is responsible for monitoring and interpreting the environmental signals that you are getting in your life. When it recognizes a threatening environmental signal, externally or internally, it sends out an alert. Now, this is really important because, again, a lot of the stressors in our lives right now do not come from external stimuli. They come from those ants that are crawling around, those automatic negative thoughts. They come from internally generated stress responses, for the most part. So what happens is the hypothalamus receives that alert. Now, it does not know how to distinguish between something that is really threatening to you and something that you're creating for yourself. It doesn't have that ability to distinguish between the two. So it starts to release this corticotropin releasing factor, all right? And that hormone is sent to the pituitary gland. Now, they say here that, it says the pituitary or the master control gland. The pituitary gland is the control gland in that cascade, but it's the hypothalamus that actually controls the pituitary, that tells it what to do, all right? And the pituitary is in charge of marshaling the 50 trillion cells that we have in our bodies. Okay. What happens when the pituitary gland responds? It in turn secretes the adrenocortical hormone, ACTH, and that is picked up by the bloodstream and it's sent down to the adrenal glands. And the adrenal glands have a lot of receptor sites for this. This is the major stress hormone. And then the adrenals start to pump out the adrenal hormones, the cortisol, the adrenaline, and the noradrenaline. This is really getting you in the position to either fight or run away. But the problem is that most people stay in that mode for most of the day, in one way or another. Now, physiologically, here's what's happening in the lungs. Your breath quickens as your lung takes in extra oxygen to feed the impending muscle activity. But if you see lower, you have shallow breathing. And one of the ways that you control your emotions is with deep, calm breathing. So right here, the first thing is you start to do the shallow breathing, and the emotions, you start to lose control of the emotions. Glucose and fats are released from storage sites in your bloodstream. This supplies energy that your body needs to fend off the threat. But there's no threat really, for the most part. So again, if you continually reinforce this cascade. Now, this cascade that's happening right now, it takes about 4 seconds for this to happen in your body. This is very fast. But what do you think the speed of a thought is? It's the speed of energy. It's the speed of light. So even before your organs are alerted to the fact that there's a threat, your thought has already told every one of those 50 trillion cells in your body that they have to marshal the forces, that something big is going down, okay? And this can actually start changing the morphology of your cells. They go from that growth condition that they were in before this happened into the protective mode. Okay? So they will stop taking in nutrients. Okay, the sense of sight and hearing becomes sharper to make you more alert. If you've ever watched an Olympic athlete, especially the sprinters, the runners, okay, when they get ready, everything, they are totally focused. They're looking ahead. They get down into that crouching position, and they wait for the gun, okay? So right now, at this point, you're in that position. You're down there, you're crouched down, your butt's in the air, you're waiting for the gun to go off, and guess what? Never does. So you're standing there, and you're standing there. You can stand there for minutes. Sometimes you stand there for hours. And all the while, your muscles are twitching. Your body is using an incredible amount of energy to keep you at that point. And then when it finally does come time, when you're called on to perform, you're so exhausted that you can't do it. Okay. And the heart beats faster, sometimes up to 5 times its normal rate. I mean, think about that. If you're in fairly good condition, I mean, your heart rate can be 50 to 60 beats per minute, sometimes even lower. Think about what happens when your heart starts to beat at a rate of 250 times a minute, or sometimes 300 times a minute. Now, if you have a really great cardiovascular system, and your arteries and veins are really pliable, and there's no calcification going on whatsoever, you can probably sustain this kind of thing. But if you've got conditions where the arteries have started to get that plaque buildup, okay, the arteries don't expand very well, and the heart's pumping and pumping and pumping, and eventually, because the arteries don't expand, you're stressing the heart out. And this is one of the major causes of heart attack for stress. Okay. As the heart beats faster, the blood pressure, of course, will rise. Your tiny muscles, even the hair-raising muscles beneath the skin, are tightening. Okay. And here's a kicker. Certain blood vessels constrict, especially to the digestive system. So you're eating a perfect diet. You're getting all the minerals, all the nutrients that you need, but you are a stress ball, okay? Are you getting the benefit of consuming those substances? Because your digestive organs have totally, they've shut down. They've shut down. They've stopped digesting, absorbing, detoxifying, and excreting. Okay, here's another one. You are not able to make sound decisions when you are in a state of stress. And the reason for that is, again, the blood vessels to the frontal cortex of the brain, where you do all of your executive decisions, has been restricted. And the blood flow to the limbic brain, that reptilian brain, your fight or flight syndrome, that's where your blood flow is going. So not only does stress damage all the systems, it makes you stupid at the same time. Let's see, okay. And this is the second kicker. The adrenal hormones directly repress the activity of the immune system to conserve energy because it needs it for the muscles. All right, so now you've shut down the digestive system, and now you're going to shut down the immune system. And there's a really good example of how this happens, and it's someone who's involved with the longevity now. Last year, Rebecca, who you all know, right? How many think that putting on a conference like this has a little bit of stress attached to it? Okay, yeah, all right. And think of that 3 days, nonstop, of making sure that everyone in this room and everyone else listening is having a good conference, that everything is flowing smoothly, okay? Lots of stress going on there. The day after the conference ended last year, Rebecca got sick, right? She got better. She took some herbs, good nutrients, and what did she do? She started planning this one. Okay. But it was a pretty good example of what stress can do in a continued onslaught. Okay. And if you ever think about how much energy the immune system uses, think about if you've ever had the flu, how you feel. I mean, people just get totally wiped out. They can't even get out of bed. And if that doesn't give you an indication of how much energy the immune system has to use to fight off a pathogen, that's a really good indication. So it consumes a lot of energy in the body. So just to go over again, here are the systems that are affected by stress: the nervous system, the respiratory system, cardiovascular system, digestive system, musculoskeletal system, and immune system. Did I miss anything? I don't think so. So you're in totality, you can be depleted by this. Okay. According to traditional Chinese medicine, and we talked about the Jing, Qi, and Shen, okay? The Jing is affected because the kidney adrenal system is being taxed. The adrenals are being called to pump out those hormones all the time. You will eventually start to experience adrenal exhaustion. And that's the kidney energy being sucked up just to support all of the stress that your body is going through. Okay? The qi, the production of qi, is totally cut off because both the digestive system and the respiratory system are involved. And the what we call post-heaven qi, energy that your body creates from the food that you eat and the air that you breathe, is totally stopped. So you are no longer producing the energy that you need to function on a day-to-day basis. So what will your body do? It will actually go for the reserve energy, which is the Jing. That's like the time-released energy. Okay? And again, the Shen, or the spirit, is definitely affected because you are agitated. You're in a state of apoplexy, almost. Okay. So here are some of the things that can help ameliorate the stress in your life. Yoga is certainly one of them, but the breathing exercises are ones that you can do that are very, very simple, and you can do them in, the span of a few minutes. The thing to remember is that it's the deep breathing, because if you can control your breath, you can control your emotions. So the deep breathing is very, very important in this kind of a situation. Make sure that you're breathing from below the navel, okay? And just take a few breaths. Creative outlets, gardening, singing, playing. I can remember when I was a kid, I used to love to garden. And that connection to the earth, as we can all attest to right now, and David can certainly attest to that, being connected to that earth energy just really does drain stress from your body. So that's an incredible one. Engaging in social activities, developing routines for handling stress, and it doesn't have to be a complicated routine. It can be something as simple as an Om. And that's from personal experience. When I step onto an airplane, I tend to be a little bit of a control freak in my life, just a tad, okay? But when you step into a plane, you give all of that up, okay? And what I do is, I have a recording of the Great Om, and I play that through the whole flight, and it just keeps me calm. It's really great. Spend more time with happy people and less time with unhappy people. And I'm not being hard here, but that saying about misery loves company, it's not a good energy, because if anything that quantum physics has taught us is that when we are in the vicinity of negative energy, we are absorbing that negative energy. So unhappy people certainly have to be helped, but it's much better to spend time with people who are in an up mood and have a lot to give. Okay, now we're going to go through a little bit of the herbal formulas. Chai Hu Longu Muli Tang, Buplurm and Dragon Bone. Okay. I took about 12 of these before I came up here today. And why? Because it helps restore the normal function of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. So what this formula does is it will actually put a filter on what the hypothalamus is interpreting as stress internally. Okay, so it'll cut it right from the get-go. Prevents chronic stress-induced decreases in extracellular concentrations of dopamine and serotonin in the prefrontal cortex. Again, when I was talking about the executive decisions that you have to make, it's because those substances start to decrease in stressful situations. So this formula actually will reduce that also, and reduces some of the adrenal hormones also for stress. So this is an amazing formula. It's not a formula that is really meant to be taken long term, but it certainly is a formula that you can take during certain situations to get through difficult times in your life, difficult areas. You can certainly do it for a while. And here's a quote from someone I think we're familiar with about adaptogenic herbs. Considered to be rejuvenative, tonic, and restorative. In present-day scientific literature, they are considered to counteract the impact of stress upon the body. So that is any of the adaptogenic herbs. And I'm just going to go over a couple of them. I am a reishi junkie. Okay. I would like to see everyone get addicted to this herb. It should go into the water supplies. Okay. All right. It enters the heart, the liver, and the lung. It calms the mind, sedates the central nervous system. So again, it's going to have a direct impact on the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. Eases tension, sharpens concentration, improves focus, and builds willpower. This is the mushroom of immortality and good fortune. I sometimes refer to this as the psychic janitor. If you've got any psychic garbage that needs to be cleaned up, reishi is the one to choose to do that. But it does give you a feeling of being grounded and centered and in charge of your own destiny. It gives you that kind of willpower. And
How do you use the mushroom?
How do
you use it in terms of taking it into your
Well, you can take it in any form. You can take it in its you can take it in its raw form, and you need to grind it up to make sure that you're breaking the cell structure, because it's a very woody mushroom. It's got a cellulose structure to it. You have to really crush it. I use the extracted form, which has already been crushed by hot water and pressure. It's a lot more convenient for me to do that, but you can do it in liquid form, in its raw form. However you do it, get it into your body. It'll improve your life tremendously. Okay. Again, ginseng. Now, a lot of people think that the only thing that ginseng is good for is a chi tonic, for energy. But a lot of the scientific research that has been done on ginseng was in studies having to do with stress. So a real adaptogenic herb, what it does is it helps you adjust to stresses in your life so that you can be successful. Ginseng enters the lung and the spleen. And again, if you look at those two organ systems, the lung corresponds again to the respiratory system and the digestive system. This is an herb that tonifies the qi-producing organs in the body. Very strongly tonifies it, as it says there. And also, it can, again, it increases the dopamine in the brain. So those are the two major ones. Now, this comes right out of the longevity program. These are the adaptogenic herbs that are listed. Interestingly enough, David was talking about the telomeres on the DNA strands. Research on astragalus has shown that astragalus actually helps to maintain that end cap on the DNA strands. So it stops them from unraveling and making mistakes when it's replicating. So that's an incredible herb. Any formula that has astragalus in it is definitely an adaptogen and a longevity herb. Okay. Deer antler, again, a phenomenal herb, definitely a longevity herb, and it's an amazing regenerative power of deer antler, especially with the ectosaponins and all the amino acids that are in it, is amazing. Eleuthero root, that's Siberian ginseng. It's not called Siberian ginseng any longer because it was thought to be misleading. It's not a true ginseng. It's actually very much like a weed, but it's incredible for being a great adaptogen. This is also, for athletes, this is an herb that is really amazing because it helps with oxygenation of blood. So that's another great one. But any of these herbs will really be amazing for helping you deal with stress and adapt. Okay, so this is the last exercise that I would like you to do. I want you to write one suggestion to help someone else live a happier, more stress-free life. But I want you to make 2 copies of it. Write it twice. And introduce yourself to a person that you do not know. And give them your suggestion. And for the people who are listening at home, you could probably email friends and do the same thing. Okay? So I just want to give you a couple of minutes to do that. Don't be afraid to mingle. Yeah, write the same one twice. Okay? And just exchange. Give it to the second person. Yeah. Now, I just realized that a lot of people who are grounded, they're sort of like stationary. But the other people can, like cross-exchange. Yes, and read it, and then we're going to share a few. Okay. Has everyone read them? Yeah. Okay. Can we share a few? Please.
Sing in the car and don't care who laughs.
That's a good one. That's sing in the car and don't care who laughs.
Start your day with something that pleases you greatly, which was nice because I have been thinking I need to start my day differently and do something in nature.
The one I received said, start your day with something that pleases you greatly, which was perfect because I had been thinking, I'm not doing the right thing in the morning that's for me and nature and nurturing and go stand on the beach in the sand, and I can do that every morning, and I haven't been. So the message was right on. I don't know how he knew.
That's great. Anyone else? Yes.
Okay, this one's really cool. The only way out is to walk through your fears and make them your strengths.
That's great. Yes.
I have two. One that I received. Love no matter what.
Let's get you the mic.
Love no matter what and eat cacao every day.
And my other one is pretend that you already are what you desire to be.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. Anyone else want to share? No? Okay. Yes.
I think a certain importance about communicating. It's important to communicate our stresses, and that is a way to make your life happier. Because you keep things in, or write them down, or you want to get your stresses out, get them out. That's how I do it. Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Good advice. Yes. Over.
I received one that said, laugh lots and meditate daily, attitude of gratitude.
Laughter is amazing because it moves chi. It moves energy that's stuck. So it can't be underestimated. Yes.
I want to share one that I received a while back. Be the person my dog thinks I am.
Excellent. Excellent. Yes, right here.
The interesting thing about people's minds thinking alike is that we wrote to each other almost the same thing. Our commonality was water. And he said to me, go swim in the ocean at least once a week. And I said to him, drink water, think peace.
Yeah, it's great.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
You're absolutely right. But that's a matter of interpretation. Yeah, okay. Anyone else? Okay, that's it. Thank you for
Thank you, George
being a great
Lamoureux.
audience. Thank you. Be well.
Thank you, George.
All right.